Today we're going to be looking at some entitled parents who got called out in TikTok.
You know what I can't stand is people with kids that act like everyone in the world should just bend over backwards and cater to them because they're like, I don't know, saints for raising the next generation. And before y'all freak out in my comments, I'm not talking about all parents, okay? There's plenty of you that I f with. I'm talking about PTA Polly with a superiority complex. Like, you know the one. So I work in sales in a high-end luxury showroom, and yesterday this family comes in, 2 parents, their kids, and in our showroom we have these swivel chairs off to the side for people to like hang out. Now, if you've ever been a kid, you know that swivel chairs are like crack to a 6-year-old. Like, it's just one big upholstered carnival ride. So inevitably the kids find their way over there. So I'm working with the parents. Kids are spinning, living their best life. And at one point Dad looks over and he kind of chuckles along with the kids as they're having fun. And so I make a joke that we only have those to entertain the kids. So the dad turns to me and he's like, well, we were just in another showroom, and even though it wasn't kid friendly, they brought out wood blocks for them to play with.
Oh, shut up.
And I'm like, okay. So not 10 seconds later, one of the kids falls out of the chair and like bumps his leg. Nothing big, he's not crying, just like a little boo-boo. Dad rushes over like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? And the kid's like, oh, I hurt my leg. This man channels the audacity of 1,000 years of patriarchy and looks at me and says, this is why you should have wood blocks. And if that's not enough, he then turns to his snot weasel and says, you could be playing and building. Excuse me, sir. First of all, this is a high-end showroom, not a Chuck E. Cheese, okay? Entertaining your sticky little hobgoblin is not part of my job description. I do not remember signing up for the Babysitters Club. And second of all, no one asked you to reproduce, okay? There are already 8 billion people on this planet, which in my opinion is 8 billion too many, okay? If you choose to parent a child, you have to actually parent that child. If you see your kid spinning on a piece of furniture and you think that it's dangerous, it is your responsibility to tell them to stop. If you see them spinning and you don't give a it is your fault if they get hurt. Nowhere in this situation does it involve me. So for you to even imply that your kid somehow got hurt because I wasn't providing ample entertainment is bull. Take the money that you were going to spend here and get the kid a iPad. It may rot his brain, but it'll keep him out of the emergency room and your entitlement out of my aura.
I mean, what he said is just a complete truth. Also, keep in mind, they're in a high-end luxury store, so I'm assuming the parents have money. Rather than them dragging their kids around the shops that they don't probably would be at, why don't they hire like a babysitter for like a couple hours? And yet again, the dad was going on about how they should have had like little like bricks for the kids to play with. How about you don't drag your kids into luxury stores? Like, what kid wants to be there? Snot Weasel might be my new favourite phase, thank you. Exactly, like I look-y love it. Also, I bet you that worker got like a load of enjoyment seeing the kid falling over. As a preschool teacher, I tell parents this all the time. Kids are not free pass for whatever. Exactly, it's like if you're gonna pop out a child, you have to keep an eye on them. As a parent, I agree with everything you said, but also your hair is wonderful. I know his hair does look good. I wish I could style my hair like that, but sadly it's receding, so I can. I have 3 kids and I take them places prepared to entertain them. That's in me. A high-end luxury showroom, absolutely not a place for my kids. Exactly, it's like, why would you take them there? Like, I swear they're just gonna touch everything. Kids are grubby. Like, no offense to kids, I think you're amazing, but some of them got grubby fingers. If they literally walk around and like touch all the clothes and get like dirty marks, parents are gonna have to pay for it.
This TikTok literally reminds me of something that happened to me. I was in the cinema and I was waiting at the ice cream counter because I wanted ice cream, right? So there's like a queue and we're all queuing in an orderly fashion, like functioning members of society. And you queue at one end of the ice cream counter and then you like move up towards the other end, which is next to the till, and then you like pay and then you go about your business. So we're there, I'm waiting in a queue for like 10-15 minutes, like a functional member of society, and there's this woman and her 2 kids and they come at the opposite end of the counter, and I just didn't think much of it. I was like, oh, they're just like looking at the ice cream flavors, which is fine. Didn't really care. And then it came to my turn to get my ice cream. So the woman like basically interjects the worker asking like, oh, what do you want? And she's like, oh, we want this and we want that, whatever. So I politely look at her and I'm just like, oh, excuse me, there's like a queue because there's people behind me, we've all been waiting. And she goes to me like, oh, we just want one thing. And I was like, okay, but there's a queue, like, can you like join the queue? Like, it's literally my turn. And she was like, my 12-year-old kid like just wants one thing. And
I don't care.
like, okay, but there's a queue. And she just was like, oh, so you're really gonna make a 12-year-old join the back of the queue for ice cream? And
yes.
I'm like, yes. And you know what the thing is like, just the type of person I am, if she came up to me and she was like, I'm really, really sorry, I know there's a queue, but like we're really running behind in the movie, like, do you mind if we just get one scoop? I would have been like, yeah, that's fine, like, go ahead, like, not a big deal. But it's just the fact that she literally looked me dead in my eyes and was like, so you're gonna make a 12-year-old join the back of the queue? Just blew my mind, because it's like, why do you think you're exempt
Entitlement.
from joining a queue? Like, we're all queuing to get ice cream because we've all got movies we want to watch. And I just don't understand why she felt that because she had a 12-year-old that meant, like, she was exempt from queuing. And it's like, this is literally what you're teaching your child. Like, your child is nearly a teenager. And you're literally teaching your child that it's literally okay to, like, jump ahead of people, and that society should, like, bend over backwards for your child, and that none of the rules apply to them. Like, why would you teach your child that? I literally have a nephew the same age as this child, and I couldn't even imagine any situation where I would think that it would be okay for my nephew to jump the queue because they're a child. Not even a small child, they're 12 years old. That's nearly a teenager. And I just cannot even believe that people literally think that normal civilians should bend over backwards for their bratty little children. Tell your child that they need to join the queue like every other person, because that is how a functioning society works. And the fact that you're even arguing with me because I'm saying, hey, you're jumping ahead of me, is literally ridiculous. Like, just, oh.
There's a good old saying that snobby parents will bring up snobby kids. Like, oh my god, say if I were you, I probably would have flicked the child. I feel like that parent is probably the type of parent who, like, gets told that her child's bullying someone, and then she blames that child for getting bullied, and it's like, oh, my son would never do that. Yet again, it's like the soccer mums where it's like the mums fancy the children. And yet again, you know, if she was nice, then yeah, sure, get in front of me. If you're in a rush, I'm completely fine with that. But it's the fact that she was entitled and rude. 12, as in a kid in secondary school, exactly. It's like, kiddo gets to the back of the line. Queuing is British culture and the kids need to learn, exactly. And it's also the fact that the kids are like being taught that they can get their way like that, you know, they're just going to turn into snobby Karen. I bet you the mum's a Karen, she seems like one. 12 is so old for that, I know. And it's also the fact that, like, the mum's acting like that, like, it's proper embarrassing. That lady could have chose politeness, but she chose audacity. Exactly, and now our kids aren't going to be able to choose a bloody ice cream because they're going to have to wait in line for about 20 minutes.
So some might say this is unfair and some might say this is petty, some might agree with me. However, most people I work with have kids, and I was working every Saturday night at this point, which I understand, it was my contract. I was working in the week, I was working on a Saturday night as well. And I just went one Saturday a month off because I didn't think it was fair that I had to work every single weekend, which I had been doing continuously and done every Saturday for 2 years. And I was just at this point where I'm like, I just want one Saturday night a month to myself, which I don't think is too much to ask. So I was willing to swap anyone's shift, I was willing to cover anyone. Anyone was willing to do me a favour, no one was willing because they had kids and they couldn't. So I thought, well, I'm going to book every bank holiday off. I'm going to have every single bank holiday, and anybody that wants a bank holiday to spend with the kids because they need childcare can then offer to work a Saturday night for me, and I will give them the bank holiday. But no one was willing because, again, they have kids and it was unfair. And I said, not my problem.
Honestly, I love it when people are petty. Another thing you should do is book their birthdays off, so it means that, like, you know, they have to work on their birthday. If they want to be a nightmare, you might as well be a nightmare. I swear kidless people at work need some kind of bonuses. We always cover for parents leaving early for sick kids, etc. The amount of extra hours we do. Exactly, and it's the fact, like, you probably don't mind covering 1 or 2 shifts, but whenever it turns into, like, a pattern, you're like, right, okay, why's up? I may or may not have looked up local school district calendars for their days off, just to be a step ahead of submitting time off. Exactly, do that or get their birthdays off. I mean, if they're gonna get the weekend off, you might as well get a few bank holidays and their birthdays off. They want Saturday off for themselves, not because they have kids, but bet they're sitting with friends drinking wine when the kids are in bed. Exactly, they always use kids as an excuse. Do they even have kids? Bet your the kids are like 20 years old.
Okay, so I just saw someone stitch this same video and talk about how when they were on a flight, a parent asked them to move because they didn't book the right seat next to their kid. And it reminded me of when I was going on my honeymoon to Malta, and we're on the plane, you know, getting ready to go, and in the row it's my husband by the window, me in the middle, and then this mom on the aisle. And she looks at me and she was like, my daughter's in the row behind us and I really want to sit next to her. Can you switch seats with her and move the row back? And I was like, no, sorry, it's my honeymoon, I really want to sit next to my husband, so sorry. So then she's like, I'm getting the flight attendant. I was like, okay, do it. So the flight attendant comes over and he took her side and was like, you really should consider moving. Like, how could you do this to a mom and her daughter? And I was like, what? Like, I'm just, this is my seat and it's my honeymoon. Also, mind you, her daughter was like 15. So we're not talking about like me denying a mom sitting next to her like infant child. So I didn't switch.
Good.
You know, the flight attendant was upset, was like making passive aggressive comments. They got someone else to move around so the mom could sit with her daughter. No. And then the flight attendant went out of his way on this like 10-hour flight to like continue to make comments about it, and brought like a special gift and like a drink voucher to the person who did switch seats, and was like, thank you for being like a nice person, like unlike some people, and like you're the type of like, you know, you're a good person, and like just I was just like in shock this whole flight. I just could not believe it, and it's just like a wild example of how people really think that parents are entitled to things like this, and it's honestly truly not my problem.
Here's a really simple way for parents to avoid that exact situation. Whenever you're booking seats, book them together. Also, she mentioned it was like a flight for like 10 hours. 10 hours? That's like a long flight. Imagine you're on your honeymoon flight with your like husband, and then like some mum wants you to move seat for her daughter. No, screw your daughter. And yet again, why was that flight attendant like acting so ugh? That kind of reminds me of like sassy, mean receptionists. It's like they're just as entitled as the passenger. A 10-hour flight not sitting next to your husband while on your honeymoon. That's part of the memory. I'm glad you stood your ground. Exactly. Like, screw that mum and screw that flight attendant. Yet again, if the mum wants to sit beside her daughter, book a seat together. A teenager kid probably didn't want to have to sit next to her mum for 10 hours. Exactly. The kid probably was happy to get away from the mum. And then in the end, the mum was able to squish in beside her. I would have complained to the airline about what happened exactly. Like, why was the flight attendant, like, being so rude? Ugh, it's like the child was 15. She's not a 2-year-old. I'm so confused why parents don't book the right seats because they're lazy. They think because they've got a child, they'll be able to switch seats. If you ever want to sit beside somebody, book the seats together. Do it in time. If you do it last minute and get random seats, people aren't going to want to move. I don't know how much the seat was. Maybe they're in first class, got a window seat, etc. Their flight could have cost like 250 there, 250 back, or even more. And it's like, are you taking the mickey? You think I'm going to switch seats for your 15-year-old daughter? No.
Hey, TikTok, when I tell you that video had me feeling some type of way, my biggest pet peeve, or one of my biggest pet peeves about working in the doctor's office, are people who come in with their children. Not one child, not two.
Free.
Multiple children. And they think that the people who sit at the front desk are responsible for watching their children when they go back and see the doctor. Absolutely not. Story time.
Let's go.
A couple of days ago, lady comes in. She has a baby in a carrier, an infant baby in a carrier, 2 toddler boys, and a preteen. She comes in, she checks in, she sits down. Someone calls her to the back to go see the doctor. She proceeds to get up and leave all 4 of her children in the waiting area. And I stopped her. I said, ma'am, you need to take your children with you. She goes, no, they're fine. They can stay with their sister. I said, is she 18 years or older? She said, no, she's 11. Then your children need to go with you because they cannot sit in our waiting area unsupervised. So she looks at me and she gets upset and she goes, well, I don't want to take them in the back. I need to talk to the doctor. And I don't want to take them back there with me. So what we going to do? I said, well, what I'm going to do is reschedule your appointment for a day where you can get somebody to watch them or you can bring somebody with you. That's what I'm going to do. Or what you can do is take them in the back with you. That lady got so mad. She snatches up her children. She's mumbling under her breath like, I just don't understand what the big deal is. It's not like you're not sitting here. It's not like you're doing anything. I'm working. And I don't work for you. Take your kids and get on up out of my face. Listen. Not today, Peggy.
Exactly, it's a waiting room, not a bloody playground. And yet again, how many kids has she got? A newborn, 2 toddlers, like a preteen. How many babies is she popping out? Why is there so many kids? We don't need that many kids. My pet peeve is when I go to the nail salon and kids running around. I'm trying to relax here. Exactly, like if the kids were like quiet and like reading a book, I wouldn't mind because I've been to places, but it's whenever a kid's really, really loud. I was recently in Belfast at M&S, you know, having lunch with my mum, and there was a kid walking around looking for her mum, and she was screaming, Mommy! I can't even do it because it goes through your voice, but it was a really loud voice. It was like basically screaming it, and like everyone was looking at the child and it was being so loud. It's just like, do them stuff whenever you don't have kids, you know, get someone to watch them, or you know, if you can't get someone to watch them, don't go and get your nails or go to a doctor. As a mother, I support this message. You had them, they're your kids and your responsibility. Exactly. And so it's the fact like the kids could easily get abducted. Like imagine if I was some sick weirdo, if I wanted to I could snatch like the little toddlers. I worked for a law firm and a couple came in for a closing. They assumed I would watch their kids. Didn't happen, and 2-year-old got stuck in the elevator. either. Exactly, that's another reason why like receptionists won't do it. If something happens to that kid, think of it, the mother could sue like the firm and like, you know, get loads of money and they could get like fired. It's like, it's not their responsibility. They're not paid to take care of your kids. They're paid to literally work on the computers and make sure everyone gets there in time, etc. It's like them taking care of your kids.
So here's the setting. It's 2019. It's the week before Thanksgiving. I'm getting on my plane to go home for the holidays to see my family. Now, some backstory, I chose this flight because my brother could pick me up at this time. It was somewhat cheap, and it gave me a window seat because I don't like flying alone, and I think window seats are really relaxing for me.
I think I know where this is gonna go. Who wants to bet £10 it's gonna be a parent with their child and they want their child to have the window seat? Not happening today, Becky.
I board the plane near the end, so everyone else is pretty much already sat down. I get to my row, and I see to the right, there is a mother and her son in my row. And so she's blocking me from walking in with her tray. And so I walk up to her, I go, hey, this is my row. I have the window seat, seat F. I was like, I just need to get by in order to sit down. This woman grabs my forearm and she says, hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. It's really nice to meet you. I was just wondering if you don't mind switching with me so that my son can have the window seat. You can have this aisle seat.
No.
And I look at her, I go, oh. It's nice to meet you too. I was like, I really want the window seat. I actually picked this particular flight because it gave me a window seat and it's a direct flight. It's only 87 minutes long. So no thank you, but no thank you. She then looks at me and she says, it's in your best interest to give my son the window seat.
No, it
He's
isn't.
only ever flown twice before, once with a window seat, once without a window seat.
Well, then it looks like he's going to be flying again without a window seat. Also, keep in mind, window seats, I'm pretty sure they cost more money. So unless you want to open your purse and give me a load of money, fine. But no, screw your son and screw you.
And trust me, you don't want to experience this without a window seat. I didn't even know what to say at this point. I just said no thank you. She then proceeds to grab my forearm with her other arm and says, I'm trying to be reasonable. You are a grown man. He is a little boy. You can sit on the aisle for 90 minutes. Let my son have the window seat or I'm going to get the flight attendant. I look at her. I look at my forearm. And I say the reasonable thing would have been, if your son needed a window seat, you should have secured him a window seat. You booked a flight with assigned seating, and now you're asking me at the last minute to switch? I booked this seat because I wanted a window seat. If you want to ask someone else to switch, you totally can, but I'm not switching with you, and the flight attendant is not going to tell me to get out of my assigned seat, which I purchased, because you want me to move. She then proceeds to get the flight attendant, not letting me into my row. And the flight attendant then agrees with me. So she starts yelling at the flight attendant.
Karen.
Then she yells at the couple behind me that, oh my gosh, can you believe blah, blah, blah airlines won't let a little boy have a window seat? This is absolutely ridiculous. We're leaving. We're not even going to be on this flight anymore. This is absolutely ridiculous. The flight attendant says if she would like to switch flights, they're more than happy to do so, but there would be an upcharge for that. She didn't switch flights. I eventually was able to sit down in my seat, and the first thing I did was shut that window. The flight was interesting too. Oh God.
Imagine sitting beside her for 87 minutes, Lord Almighty. Yet again, if you want a window seat, book a window seat. I don't understand why to act like that. It's like me going out and punching someone and then being shocked whenever I get charged for like assault. Like, make it make sense. It is in your best interest to teach your child that they won't always get what they want and how to appropriately handle it. Exactly. And I've got a feeling that mum will never do that. As a mother of three, we do not claim her. I'm so sorry she felt entitled to treat you like this. Exactly. And the thing is, out of all parents, there'll be like one parent out of like a billion. It's always one rude, entitled Karen mom who does that. And yet again, she started beef with the people behind her. It's like she's the bloody problem. I have a kid, guess what? I plan accordingly. You don't owe anyone anything. We pay, we say, period. Exactly, and it's like, yet again, if you want a window seat, book a window seat. Don't expect someone to give you a window seat. And it's the fact she was trying to gaslight you by basically saying, oh, you don't want to see what'll happen to my son whenever he doesn't get the window seat. What is he gonna do? Have a tantrum? Well, anyways, guys, that's some entitled parents who got called out in TikTok. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see me look at more entitled parents, let me know, definitely will. Press the bigger subscribe and see you all tomorrow for another video.